A bit of patience. How
Yes,
a bit
please,
of
no
patience
problem.
will be, yeah.
No problem, Prof.
Wow. Hey, this is serious. Wow.
Please, how can I help?
I'm coming.
Okay, sure.
I think I have to open it first. Again. Yeah, can you direct me?
Yes, please. Please,
How
have you
to
been
do
able
it?
to open it?
I've opened it, but the sharing is the issue now.
Okay, so please click on share screen.
Yeah, I've done so.
And then you choose the screen that has the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And then click on share.
PowerPoint
at the right hand bottom. Yeah, the screen. So the different screens on your screen would appear in that dialog box. Then you click on share at the right hand bottom corner.
Okay. Wow.
Let me check the settings.
Wow. Looks like I'm in a different zone to advanced basic. There's something on advanced basic, advanced whatever.
Yeah, so just under basic, don't go to advanced, just under basic, there should be the screen that has the PowerPoint presentation opened. Since you've already opened it, just tap on that screen or that window that shows the PowerPoint presentation, and tap on share.
Okay, I get it now. But sorry, let me just. Hey, what is this thing? Wow, this is.
Let me
easily.
let me share it for you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. Let me. How do I give it? Send it to you so I share.
Please a minute. I'm texting you right now.
Okay, looks like it's coming, is it?
Yes.
Can you see now?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, now that's good. So now it's left with what do you call it? To put it in the mode, yeah?
Yes, please.
In the mode. Oh, hey, Asimo. In the mood.
So Prof.
Yeah.
Look towards the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the bottom right, bottom right. Come down to the bottom, down.
Yeah.
Or
No, it's not on my screen, it's not on the bottom. I thought it was supposed to be somewhere at the top, somewhere.
okay, so slideshow.
Okay, so go to yeah. Go to
No,
Slideshow.
the
slideshow.
next to your right.
Slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow.
Yes, now, okay.
And then from the beginning.
From beginning, yeah, okay. Good. Yeah, it's now showing, isn't it?
Yes,
This one
it
there.
is.
I've always been using my phone, so you see, this is the whole issue. Today I'm using a different thing. All right, let me say good evening to everyone once again. I think the introduction was okay. I've been introduced and I'm sure everybody knows his face. Now, the topic is dietary requirements in pregnancy. In fact, I would like to tweak it a bit. I know dietary is a bit too narrow for me when I look at it from the way we are as nutritionists and dietitians. We don't want to narrow it. So we look at the nutritional requirements instead of dietary requirements, but they are slightly different. But they fall in the same, kind of line. So even though the title is dietary, I'll mostly be talking about nutritional requirements, because a dietary aspect is a part and parcel of the nutritional requirements, because some of the things that are required, even though they are nutritional, they are not necessarily dietary. And I'm sure you understand it as I go along. All right, now I want to start with this quote by David Barker. It says, the genes provide, I think somebody has quoted it before, and I'm just reiterating it. It says the genes provide a general recipe for making a human being, but the human being is determined by the ingredients that is provided by the mother. Ingredients provided by the mother. This is a very profound statement, quote. In other words, you and I, even though are genetically determined to be either male or female or human beings, our final outcome by the time we get into this world is determined by the ingredients that our mothers provide in the womb. And if the mother does not provide the right ingredients, you can imagine what will happen. By the time you come out of the womb, you exactly know what it's going to be. The consequences of not providing these right ingredients are very dire. And we have seen the effects that are happening all over the country and all over the world. Now, let me also say that the conception, that is the conceptional phase of the life cycle, that is pregnancy, is a very critical phase in the whole of the life cycle. Said that there is the need to focus on that stage. In fact, as nutritionists and dietitians, we need to refocus and put our focus on that stage, because anything going wrong there, and the human being is not properly constituted. The ingredients that must go in, and that is not just about nutrients or foods and so on that the woman will take. It's about so many other things. So we need to refocus and know that, yes, it is very, very important that the women get pregnant, and they do it so by being able to, go through the pregnancy successfully. And successfully is not about just carrying the pregnancy through term, but ensuring that you make the necessary provisions so that the outcome is something that is desirable. All right. Now, there are a few statements that will serve as a prelude to this topic. Like I said, nutritional requirements. Now, there are challenges, or what we call nutritional challenges, which occur throughout the life cycle. There are nutritional challenges from conception or pregnancy right down to age, what do you call it, the aged, or should the old age, and even before you die. However, it's very, very important to recognize the fact that when there is poor nutrition, okay, which could start, or which starts very often in the mother's womb, which is in utero, and that poor nutrition extends beyond the, what do you call it, the conception. Okay, now for women in particular, and girls, if this extension goes well into adolescence and adult life, then you know that it's a recipe for disaster. Women are getting pregnant, they will get pregnant, but they have nutritional problems, and already that's a wrong start. And so it's important to look at this critically. Now, undernutrition, which we have always classified as not having enough nutrients or enough food, for that matter, you can consider it as food or nutrients or whatever you want, but good nutrition is not just about food. So undernutrition, that occurs during childhood, adolescence, and pregnancy, has an additive negative impact on the birth weight of infants. Now, I just decided to put it at birth weight, but there are so many other things that are impacted by undernutrition during childhood and all those. This is just to show that these are added burdens, apart from the conceptual problems, challenges. Now, low birth weight is particularly mentioned here because very often undernutrition results in, to a large extent, in low birth weight, which is something we always measure. But there are other associated effects or consequences of undernutrition, which will be mentioned as we go along the line. There are so many, there are really a lot. And very often we do not link them to poor nutrition. We may link them to other issues. And so as we go along, some of it become very clear. Now, if the infants who are born low birth will survive, the consequences of being born, so I'm talking of the fetuses, the consequences of being born undernourished, okay, it extends into the adult life. So undernourishment starts from the womb, you are born undernourished, and the consequences of it, so many things happen, will extend into our adult life. That is one of the profound things that was found or was identified by Barker and his group. They identified that nutritional insource in the mother's womb has got consequences that extend beyond the time the baby is born, but goes as far as in adult life. So that sets the stage for us to examine critically what happens within the mother's womb. Now, the stages of pregnancy, there are three main stages. We have the pre-embryonic stage, okay, which happens within the first 2 weeks after conception, after fertilization. The first 2 weeks constitute the pre-embryonic stage. A lot of things happen during that period when the egg has been fertilized. But the critical one is the fetal stage. Within the next 9th to to delivery, the ninth week to delivery. Sorry, we have the pre-embryonic, which is the first stage. We have the embryonic stage, which is the 3rd to the 8th week, and that is a period where a lot of things happen. In other words, you have formation of organogenesis, organ formation, and so organs are being formed. And this requires some specific nutrients and specific actions by the mother in order to ensure that the build-up for the baby or for the unborn baby is solid. You are laying a foundation. Now, the first one that I looked at, the pre-embryonic stage, is also very vital, very important, but it's not as important as when the organs are beginning to form. That is, you are having some brain developing, you are having kidneys, you are having liver, you are having various structures are now beginning to pop up. You can see in the first stage, the first how many weeks? 8 weeks. Very critical. That is why a lot of people have contended that the first few weeks of pregnancy, a life is formed. So it's very, very unethical to be taking away or removing this fetus. But by and large, it is the fetal stage, which is when the 9th week to time of delivery, which is very often around 38 to 40 weeks. Now, this is the stage where whatever has been put down during the embryonic stage is consolidated. So you have a build-up, an increase in the weight, an increase in the size of some structures that have been laid down. And it's also very, very important because those structures must be put up to reach a certain stage of development before they become functionally matured. If they are not reaching that stage, then their maturity is short, is retarded. And that is where we also have to be very cautious. You have children who are born small for their gestational age, retarded, stunted, and these are some of the outcomes. I'm just mentioning low birth weight in particular is as a result of all these conditions not being very properly attended to in terms of nutrition. So we need to look at these stages very critically and see what we can do about it. Now, during pregnancy, and of course, and also breastfeeding, the the demands for nutrients is very, very high. Okay, in a woman's life, pregnancy and breastfeeding demands a lot of nutrients. And that is a well-known fact because in pregnancy, some people, we all know that there's a fetus and all the embryo fetus, whatever it is you want to call it, together with the mother. So you need to have enough, nutrients and energy to be able to meet the requirements for the unborn child and also the mother's requirements. So it tends to be a little or slightly above, not slightly, but above what the woman who is not pregnant or the pre-pregnant woman will require. It is not a double requirement. It is not as if you need something that is twice what the woman needs, even though some people, say that when you are pregnant, you are eating or you are feeding for two. That is not the case. But you need to up the nutrient requirements because there's the need to service the fetus who is also needing some of these nutrients to grow properly. So it is critical. The body needs enough nutrients and energy every day to support the growth of the fetus and the maintenance of the mother's body. So we are talking nutrients and energy and nutrients. I'm sure you all understand what I'm saying. All the nourishment the fetus needs to develop is either from the intake of foods or supplements from the mother or from the reserves that the mother has. Let me emphasize, it's not on the slide, but it's very important. So the nourishment of the fetus comes from the food that the mother takes in, from the food that they take in, as well as the reserves of the mother. If the food that they are taking is not adequate, the mother should have some reserves. So if the reserves are not there, that means they must meet the requirements from the food. If they have reserves, they will use those reserves. Now, what this also means that once they are using those reserves, they need to replenish it. So as they are going on, as they are progressing in the pregnancy, they should be eating enough to provide for the fetus and also replenish the reserves that they have used up for their fetus. And that is one of the things that demands that the mother will eat a little more than their normal requirements. So the demands throughout pregnancy will vary from one pregnancy to the other and from a particular individual to the other. They are not the same. It's not one size fits all. But by and large, they look very similar. They are very, very similar, very closely similar, because that stage, that physiological state of pregnancy, it's very, it is very, very, in fact, in terms of the way it happens, you can tell exactly what is going on within one individual and the other. And there's a lot of overlaps, similarities. That is why you can sometimes generalize. But in actual fact, and that is something I'm sure our dietitians will talk or will tell you about, you cannot, it's not one size fits all. And in this particular case, it's the same thing. What one pregnant woman will go through in their pregnancy will not be the same as another person, because there will be slight variations. And that is why we need to have that in mind. It's not the same mind because my mother ate plantain and because of that I was strong. It means I also have to eat plantain. It may not work for you. You need to have that in mind. Now, inadequate food intake, which is the amount as well as the quality, all right? Quantities and quality during pregnancy have obvious effects on pregnancy performance in terms of weight gain and pregnancy outcome. So if the pregnant woman is not taking food adequately, in terms of the quantities and in terms of the quality, in fact, it's something that we might have to be worried about. So quantity-wise, quality-wise, it's a worry. You need to ensure that the pregnant woman is taking enough, and then the quality of the food too is such that it can meet those requirements. And we are emphasizing, we are talking about these issues because we are talking about another human being who is being formed. We want a human being who is holistically, formed, not someone who has got a shortcoming in this one organ or one structure or the other, which happens very frequently. So we need to ensure these things. It's not a matter of just go and eat and be satisfied. Yes, eat and be satisfied will mean quantitatively you are eating, but what is the quality? Will it provide the nutrients that the mother needs or the baby needs? That is what we need to consider when we are looking at the nutrition of the pregnant woman. All right, so the next thing to look at is, this is just something that I will just skim through, because this is something that we have been presented with in our courses. We're talking about weight gain during pregnancy. Now, this is just to give you an idea that from pregnancy to the time the woman delivers, there are certain weight that the woman should gain. The woman should gain certain weight, but this is also dependent on the BMI of the woman. If the woman starts with a low BMI, then there's need to gain more weight. And this weight is going to come from the fetus as well as the fluids in the woman, fetus and fluids. They're very, very important. And when I say fluids, I'm talking about the blood and the volume of blood and other important secretions that are within the mother. Very critical. And there's a table down there, which I'll show you in a bit, which gives you an idea of the kind of weight gain that is desirable in women who have various BMIs. So if you are within the normal BMI, then you know that you need whatever it is. Usually our women are either underweight, they are underweight, they are normal, or they are overweight, and some are obese. These are the needed weight gains that you need to have. Now, if you look on the chart, in fact, we tend to have a lot of women either, in fact, in the earliest, in most circumstances, they are within the normal weight gain, all right? Or sorry, the normal weight. So we can say that, they need this amount of, to gain this amount of weight by the time they get into the pregnancy or to the final stages of the pregnancy. But however, now what is happening is that a lot of the women are getting pregnant underweight. They are underweight. And now we also have some women getting pregnant overweight. The double burden of malnutrition is kicking in. So we have quite some number of women underweight and some too overweight. And there's the need to now check all this, which is done, of course, in the antenatal clinics. So the women are weighed periodically just to check whether they are gaining the right kinds of weight. It's very, very significant. If a woman comes to antenatal is not gaining any weight, then there must be some questions to answer. And so this is just to guide us so that we have a fair idea. Now, there are important key nutrients. I'm not going to highlight all the nutrients. The real state of affairs is that a pregnant woman should have a number of nutrients. The nutritional requirements must cut across, and therefore we normally recommend a balanced diet, or what some will refer to as some people also talk about the 4-star diet. 4-star diet. And so I am very opposed to diets. I will tell you why. Because if they 4-star diet, I mean, sometimes it brings in a lot of problems, a lot of issues, measurement issues. And people will not want to be measuring this, measuring that, and all those things. And so, as a public health nutritionist, I rather believe that we should encourage mothers or pregnant women to have a variety of foods according to what it pertains within their environment. Variety, diversifying the food, having a wide dietary diversity. And that is what we should encourage, because people don't want dietary diversity. If you ask them to just take a 4-star diet, they will definitely get the 4-star diet, but they will be having certain particular foods all the time, okay? Because that is what is available to them. But if you encourage them to vary it, they are most likely to have everything that you are expecting them to have. So that is it. But if you think that the 4-star diet is good enough to give them a balance, to meet their requirements in a balanced fashion, fine. That is okay. You can go through it. But personally, from where I sit, I think that we rather should push for a balanced diet by encouraging a diversified diet. So you tell them you need to eat as much as possible from different food groups, and very differently, all types different. Shouldn't be monotonous. Avoid monotony. Eat from different food groups. Avoid certain foods, certain non-nutritional foods, and so on. Like I know of foreign kasa, which is eaten by a lot of pregnant women, which we discourage that seriously, because you do not provide them the nutrients that they need. Now, energy and protein are very important for pregnant women. Energy and protein. I think nobody will doubt that. Energy and protein. When I say energy, basically I'm talking of the 3 macromolecules that provide energy for the woman. They also, within the 4-star diet, or within the variety of foods that a woman should eat, there should be certain proportions coming from carbohydrates, carbohydrate sources, and then some of them from legumes, animal source proteins, and so on, so that there will be enough energy for the pregnancy. The processes that go into pregnancy require energy. It's not just nutrients for the growth, but even the growth, occurrence of growth needs a lot of energy. You need energy, metabolic energy, that I'm talking about, ATP and whatnot. If you don't have energy, you can have what is available and you will not be providing enough growth. And sometimes that is where we are lacking, because it's not enough to just allow the person to take in one particular food and not have energy enough. Now, when is energy, I need to talk a bit about energy, because in the northern part here, when we say energy, what comes to mind for people is carbohydrates, and they take a lot of carbohydrates. Yes, we all eat a lot of carbohydrates, but the kind of carbohydrate we need cannot provide the energy that we require, because we have stripped the carbohydrates of all the factors that will enable us to generate energy. So it's a big, dicey issue. You are taking in the carbohydrates and you are converting it and storing instead of using it to provide the energy that is required to be able to allow the fetus to grow and so on. So it's important that we, within the limits of providing energy, we know exactly what kinds of energy we are talking about. Otherwise, we are not going to make any inroads. In terms of protein too, it's important to diversify the protein that is from plant sources, from animal sources, and so on. And we shouldn't mistake the fact that most of the animal source proteins also contain fats, a lot of fats, and saturated fats as such. So we should be very careful, even though we know they are very important for building up the baby, the tissues of the baby, and also for building up the tissues of the mother in terms of blood, in terms of some other tissues that have been depleted of nutrients for the baby. We need to be repleted. So they will build up from proteins and energy. That is very critical. Apart from that, there are important, what do you call it, nutrients, other nutrients that are very, very significant. In fact, they are more like specifically required in the diet. So we need to look at that and be able to provide pregnant woman. In other words, sorry, can I go back? All right, is it energy and protein? All right, I didn't talk about the what do you call it? Sorry. Can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? Sorry. Am
yes, Prof, we can hear you.
Prof,
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Then thank you. I thought the noise, I wasn't hearing anything, so maybe. All right. So yeah. Now, okay. Yes. Now, energy and protein. Then there are specific nutrients like folic acid or folate, folic acid. Then calcium, then vitamin D. In fact, in terms of the vitamins, you can also talk about vitamin C and vitamin D. They are very important, very specific. Now, the assumption here is that it is easier to get vitamin C. In fact, these are from the textbooks. In our context, it is very difficult to get vitamin C because we are not having a daily intake of it, which is the requirement. So it's important to note vitamin C, also a very important requirement for the pregnant woman. Iron, as for iron, in fact, sometimes we put iron as the first or the second, but it's there all the same. You don't need to overemphasize it. Then we have essential fatty acids. Here we're talking about the omega-3 fatty acids and some other fatty acids that may not necessarily be omega-3, but may be very nutritious and provide some basic, basic substances or substrates for building up the child, the fetus. Now, if you look at energy and protein, it's for increased need for energy is very important because the woman is hypermetabolic. It's in a hypermetabolic state. In other words, there's a lot of metabolism going on for the woman's build up as well as the fetus's build up. So you need energy. That is very straightforward. Then once energy is kicked into action, then we need to also talk about proteins. Proteins are used as building blocks, and the proteins are required. You remember the stages where structures are being formed. So you need proteins to form those structures, to ensure that those structures are formed. It's not just proteins, because those structures are formed in such a way that they will require very important envelopes. Okay, if you are doing proteins, we are also talking about cellular, inclusions, as well as those covers of the outermost covers or membranes of cells. And these are all important. They are made by what do you call it, fats, fats. And some of these fats are the essential fatty acids. You need them, omega-3 fatty acids. You need them in order to be able to provide all these things. And they also needed the fats. Let me go systematically. And after proteins needed for all these synthesis, we also talk about folic acid. Now, folic acid, okay. Now, before that, let me just, right, okay. All right, something that I didn't talk about. The proteins, the needs for the proteins are that they are used for, I've told you what they are used for. Now, where or which kind of proteins are required for the mother or the fetus, the pregnant woman? We're talking about animal source proteins. We're also talking about plant source proteins. These are necessary dietary requirements for pregnant women, animal source, plant source proteins. Now, if there's a woman somewhere who is having only plant source proteins and is not having animal source, it's not very likely to meet the requirements, the protein requirements of the fetus as well as herself, because there are certain amino acids that are very, very limited in most of the plant sources that we have. Very limited in a lot of the plant sources that we have. They are limited or in very small quantities. So we need to boost, if you want to really meet the requirements, it means you have to take large quantities, very large quantities. And most of the time it's not available for most of these pregnant women. So you need to encourage them to have animal source protein. And by animals, I'm talking of fish. You have fish, anchovies, you have all kinds of fishes they have access to. You can also have some meat, and I'm talking here about lean meat, not what they call a fatty meat. And unfortunately, this is what people like, fatty meat. They like fat meat that is got a lot of fat. People go to the butcher's shop, and when they buy food, the meat, they want the fatty part, or at best, if they don't get the fatty part, they'll ask the butcher to add some fat, extra fat. That is what they are looking for. And all this fat is not essential. It's not part of the essential fatty acid. They are not. They are mostly saturated and, sometimes with a lot of issues around them, with so many other issues around them. Here, I must say, when I get to fat, I will emphasize on something here. But let's go on to look at the folic acid. Now, folic acid has been touted as a very essential nutrient for pregnant women. Why? Why is it so essential? Because it's involved in DNA synthesis, it's involved in growth processes and other important processes in the body. And when you have a fetus in the making, a child in the making in the womb, you need something to boost, to improve the DNA and to help in certain protein synthetic processes, protein synthesis. And all this folic acid plays a very crucial role. Folic acid together with vitamin B12, they play crucial roles in these kind of metabolic processes where proteins are formed and DNA is also synthesized, and all the processes that are involved. Now, one important aspect of folic acid that has become very known of late is the fact that it is essential in the rapid development of tissues, because tissues need a lot of protein synthesis, a lot of DNA to be synthesized, a lot of other materials to be synthesized, and folic acid plays that crucial role. And it has to take a lot of research to come to the realization that the neural tube defects that were very common in Caucasians at the time, initially they thought it was, there was a problem, there's an issue with people having neural tube defects. But after they realized, they started working, if it had been in Africa, probably it would have taken longer for us to know that the problem was folic acid deficiency, because we have a lot of folic acid in the foods that we take. We take a lot of food that have folate in them, grains, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, especially oranges and so on and so forth. There are a lot of folic acid in those foods. In the what do you call it, in the Caucasian areas of, the Western world, a lot of women, pregnant women, were not indulging in these things at those days, and most of them were developing these neural tube defects, including spina bifida and cleft palate or cleft, what do you call it? All those problems associated with neural clefts and so on. And that is something that became very evident. And so we know, and in fact, that is what led to the subscription of folic acid for pregnant women. Folic acid. Now the iron is added as another important requirement because of the effects of not having enough iron. And I mean, I am an advocate for dietary improvements using food-based approaches, not tablets. So you hear I'll be talking more about food and not tablets. And I think, unfortunately, when you don't have the foods or you are not indulging in intake of the foods, then tablets are required or are recommended for you. But I think as nutritionists and dietitians, we should not be going that way. We should encourage people to take, that should be a last resort. The prescription of tablets should be a last resort. We should encourage the population to rather up their intakes of foods that will be able to provide them enough folic acid, enough folate. And there, it is doable, it is possible. There are people who have done that, who have been eating all these foods that I'm talking about, and they don't need tablets. It's only unfortunate that now we have to indulge in those things. But folate is definitely very important. It is required in some amounts, like 600 is the dietary recommended daily allowance. And it is something that usually is taken in tablets, okay? And I think the dietary requirements are the green vegetables, the fruits, legumes, and whole grain breads and cereals. These are the sort of requirement, the things that we can easily meet. Our mothers can be encouraged to have this. And it comes also with carbohydrates or for energy, it comes with proteins, it comes with some natural fats and so on, depending on the amount that they are consuming. So we need to encourage these for the intake of our mothers, not tablets. If we are going down the tablet way, then we know that the repercussions are there. It's debatable, but I believe that this is where, as nutrition, we should focus for our pregnant women. There's a lot of food that we can encourage them to have. Now, the next is calcium.
Please, the sound is off. The sound is off.
Please, let's hold on. I think Prof is gone off the line, so let me try and get in touch with him. So please, let's just hold on whilst we try to rectify that.
Okay. Okay.
Prof is back. Prof. So please let's give Prof some few minutes to settle down and rectify the issue.
Yeah. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Can you see?
Hi.
Can you see now?
Yeah. I
Okay. These internet challenges. Forgive me. All right. Are you here now?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Charlie, what is this?
So like the first.
Prof,
Yeah, can you hear
unmute
me now?
yourself.
Can you see?
Yes, please.
Okay, and you can hear me too.
Yes, we can
Yeah.
see. But it looks
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
I don't know whether I'm the only one experiencing that. We can hear you.
Okay, all right. Then let me just proceed before it goes off. It's just internet challenges we're having here. It's kind of fluctuating, but let's see how best I can do it very quickly so that we'll go on. Now, I was talking about calcium. For us, the RDA is 1,200 milligrams per day, which is an extra 200 milligrams considering the pre-pregnant mother. So you need an extra 200, not twice what the pre-pregnant mother or the mother needs. The good sources are usually touted as dairy products, okra, green vegetables, beans, and whatnot. That's what the textbooks say. But as far as some of us are concerned, the source is where you can get it. Calcium can be gotten from the source, which are the bones. So when you have soft bones in sardines, in the fishes, you have soft bones. If you are eating, what do you call them? The guitar schoolboys, and you are eating it with the bones and everything, there's enough calcium there. Even for the huge bones and hard bones, if you boil them and you drink the broth that you get from it, you are likely to get enough calcium in there. So we don't have to go for milk because dairy products are very expensive here. We don't drink our milk. We rather use it for some other source. Things. Now, Wagazi is a dairy product. So if you can encourage Wagazi, the intake of Wagazi is also very important to provide some calcium for mothers. The others that I've mentioned are very, they don't have enough. They provide some amount of calcium, but not as as much to meet requirements, like okra, green vegetables and beans, for instance. They have some calcium, but not enough. So you need to go to the what fishes, the soft bones of fish, soft fish bones, and then you can get it. Now, vitamin D. We in Africa and the tropical areas should not be complaining of lack of vitamin D. Unfortunately, our culture has made it such a way that we are lacking, and our pregnant women are lacking vitamin D. Pregnancy has become like a disease. When somebody is pregnant, they are more or less restricted to the bed or to the house or to the room. They are not allowed to come out because they are pregnant. They shouldn't do certain things. They shouldn't be seen sitting outside and sunning themselves. They should not be seen doing certain things so that they can encourage vitamin D. Vitamin D intake in our tropics is usually gotten from 10 to 20 minutes sunlight exposure. If you expose yourself in the morning, especially morning sunlight, 10 to 20 minutes, all that you need to meet your vitamin D requirements. That is all you need. And vitamin D is not anything that is so difficult to phantom, because it is part of, it is in the skin. If the sunlight only needs to convert it to a form that will eventually be activated to provide the functions in your system. So you have something on the skin that the sunlight can convert into a vitamin D product, which eventually is activated for use. But if you are going to be looking to diet, then I'm afraid you will be eating. I mean, we will not, our pregnant women are not likely to meet those dietary requirements because they are usually things that are not available. They are not within our reach, the reach of our pregnant women. So we need to encourage them to expose themselves to the sun and not cover up, entirely cover up, cover up from head to toe, like we are beginning to do as some cultures we have imbibed is getting us to do. So pregnant women must be taught to do that. It's very vital area. Calcium and vitamin D and calcium, they are very important because they have a link. If you have vitamin D, you are able to lay down, you are able to absorb calcium in the system to provide without the necessary and teeth and so on and so forth that is required. So we need we need calcium, we need vitamin D, and for calcium, vitamin D exposure is enough to the sun. Iron. Now this is the main thing that a lot of people talk about. Iron. Iron is required by the mother for so many reasons. Iron is required because iron is very essential. It's an essential nutrient that is required by every organism, for almost every organism, including humans. We also require iron because most of the oxidative processes in our bodies are, come about because of the presence of iron. Iron is the very highly oxidative element, which is used in our bodies, including other organisms, microorganisms, and so on. So it's a hot commodity. So our body will store iron in various forms just to keep it away from other organisms. We have ferritin, we have transferrin, we have hemoglobin, myoglobin, and so many other things that iron is used. Then we also have the cytochromes, oxidases, and so on. Those enzymes that require iron to be able to be activated or to be able to function. Very, very important metabolic processes in our body. And without iron, these processes are not able to be undertaken. However, there is also a problem with too much iron. When there is excess iron, because it's very oxidative, it will lead to the production of pro-oxidants. It leads to pro-oxidants, highly reactive oxygen species, free radicals, and so on and so forth. That can destroy cells and so on. So there's the need to have a certain balance. And that is why we need to be cautious in iron. I think we all know about the provision of iron in areas like ours where malaria is also endemic because of the fact that iron is highly oxidative. And the malaria parasites also need iron. When they get free iron, they are going to grow faster and become stronger and be able to change their epitopes and so on and go even what you call more resistant. So that is why we need to be very cautious about it. But iron is needed a lot. And the iron we are talking about is not any iron than what is obtained from the diet. I'm talking dietary iron. And let me say it again here, because I am a proponent of dietary sources of things, not tablets, because we can't go on forever with tablets. Somebody is going to benefit all along, and we are going to be at the losing end. No wonder the burden of our health facilities is going up. Iron can be obtained from our diet. There is iron in almost virtually every food that we eat, but it's high in certain foods. So we need to look at how we, subscribe to those foods and encourage our pregnant women to have those foods. We know about heme and non-heme. The last time I presented on anemia, we talked about heme and non. I didn't go into the details because we didn't have enough time. But heme and non-heme iron are available, and there are ways by which you can improve upon the intake of non-heme iron. We know that. So it's not about encouraging them to take food foodstuffs or diet that is high in non-heme iron, but you encourage them so that they take in with other substances, other foods, so that they can convert the non-heme iron to iron and they can meet their requirements. All you need is encourage it with fruits and vegetables to have vitamin C available, or to have it with some animal source animal source foods with heme in them. The heme is a promoter of non-heme. Or you take in certain foods that will suppress those those substances that tend to cause to bind to the iron and not allow it to be absorbed or to be made to be available. And these are the things we need to. So our processing of the foodstuffs and all those are very, very critical. If you ferment foods, for instance, you improve upon the availability of iron in them. Non-heme iron is improved when there's fermentation. When you add certain mixtures of foods and so on, you increase the availability of iron from non-heme and so on. So these are it's just food-based approaches we need to emphasize instead of concentrating on iron tablets and folic acid tablets and so on. We can get them in their foods. So we need to rethink and refocus. But I think it is an understatement if we think that iron is not necessary. Iron is very, very important for so many reasons that I've stated. And the amount that is needed is not a lot. For our pregnant women, some iron is not lost in menstruation because they stop menstruating. So we need to reconsider how much they need. What they actually need in pregnancy is a little higher than what they need. Or they need before they get pregnant. Coupled with the fact that when they are not pregnant, they lose iron through menstruation, a little bit of some iron menstruation. The amount that is required is still not great, not too high. And the amounts are very available. Now, for the infant, you need iron for the infant who are not yet born, because when they are able to accumulate enough iron, it can last for just 6 months. So during the first 6 months, the iron stores of the infant will last up to the end of the 6 months. And that is why breast milk is supposed to be exclusive, so that some iron is given to the babies or added onto the baby's reserves, so that it repletes the reserves. Otherwise, the baby will eventually become iron depleted. And that is also the reason why most of our children after the exclusive breastfeeding period become iron deficient, and you get them becoming anemic and so on. Children around that age are highly, highly anemic because they don't even get enough stores from the beginning and not enough also from the breast milk. So we need to have that in the woman. Now, coupled with the fact that we all know about the hemodilution that occurs in women. When a woman is pregnant, the blood is diluted. It becomes, the volume of blood will increase and the hemoglobin levels come down. But this is in the first and second trimester. Within the third trimester, the hemoglobin levels will shoot up. Now, the reason why there's dilution within the first 2 trimesters is because that facilitates movement of substances or iron across the placenta. If there is no dilution and the hemoglobin levels are very high in a pregnant woman with the first one, that is going to cause a lot of problems around the placenta, because iron is going to be very difficult to pass through, and it's going to stay there and cause oxidation. So there'll be oxidative processes occurring within the placenta, and that can lead to some conditions that we don't want. Placental problems, abruptions, placental, whatever it is. All the problems with the placenta can occur. And that is why you need to be very careful, especially when it comes to iron with pregnant women. We don't want to give them excessive amount of iron. Even though when their HBs are low, we think that they need iron. But women have gone into pregnancy and to labor with quite low HBs, around 5, 6, 7, and they have been able to deliver. The only thing is that when after delivery, there's a need to deplete the iron, because that is when they need a lot more HB, hemoglobin, to be able to recover, to recoup, and also to do the necessary whatever activities, metabolic activities that they need for themselves. But during the first 2 phases of pregnancy, there's a need to have hemoglobin levels come down. They shouldn't come too low, but it's a natural and a normal phenomenon. We should know that. So when a woman is having hemodilution, that will occur. All right, so the placenta and the hemoglobin for the placenta is very important because of the necessary occurrences that happens around the border of the placenta. Now, from the dietary point of view, it is very difficult to achieve iron levels from the dietary point of view because of the huge amount that are required to be transferred to the through the placenta to the fetus. In fact, the placenta, within the placenta, depending on the conditions, there a lot of iron accumulates in the placenta. That is why now, currently, when a woman is delivering, they delay the clamping of the cord. Formerly, when you deliver, immediately you deliver, they clamp the cord and then they cut it. Now, there's something called delayed cord clamping. Or is it cord cutting or clamping? Right? They delay just so that some more of the hemoglobin or iron will still get into the baby. So you delay the clamping and cutting so that you have more exchange going on, because now the baby has been born, it's going to have certain activities where placenta hemoglobin or something will still be draining into the fetuses. So when you delay it, you allow more HB to go, or sorry, hemoglobin to go into the baby. Then you cut. So the baby now accumulates more. And that is the reason why all this is being promoted, because the baby needs the iron as well. Iron is not just for hemoglobin, it's for so many things, and I pointed that out. So we need to be very careful when we are, and also very careful because it is in too much of it is going to help. I mean, it's not going to help the fetus. In any case, too much of everything is bad. Too much of everything. Okay, so we need to look at that. The next, sorry, what somebody is okay, yeah. Iron, we finish with iron. There's still something about good sources of iron: meat, fish, and poultry. Good sources. There are also legumes and other vegetables, plant foods, which are also, provide iron, but they have to be, provided together with vitamin C in order to improve its absorption, and for that matter, its availability. So leguminous and other vegetables contain some iron, but like I said, non-heme iron. And then when you take certain foods, in addition, I mean, calcium in milk and other calcium providing phytates and so on, they tend to block the absorption of iron. So it's very important that you minimize the intake of these foods when you are improving, you want to improve upon the iron intake of the pregnant woman. Right. So the next thing we need to look at is the essential fatty acids. I've talked about them already. And these are very important long chain polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are used in the synthesis of arachidonic acid, which is a very important precursor for prostaglandins. The prostaglandins are kind of hormones that are produced and are very important in mediating metabolic processes, even some of them within the hormonal secretions and production systems. So prostaglandins are very critical. If you don't have essential fatty acids in your diet, you may not be able to produce some of these prostaglandins, some of which are essential even for mediating, what do you call it, mediating, this pro-inflammation and so on. They are pro-inflammatory in nature, and they help to mediate inflammation. And so you need some of these omega-3 fatty acids, and they are obtained from fishes, sea fishes, and seafood products. Okay, sea fishes and seafood products like other, organisms that are in the sea, including sometimes seaweeds. These are also plants that are found within the sea. They accumulate some of these substances. They are variously named and so on, but they are long chain and therefore. But within the omega-3 fatty acids, there are also those that can be obtained from certain foods that we take normally in certain oils that we are taking, some seeds, sesame seed, flax seed, and seed oils in general, olives and fish, like I already said, olive oil. Now, olive oil is also good because it contains monounsaturated fatty acids. And the monounsaturated fatty acids are brilliant when it comes to reducing cholesterol in the body. So they don't allow cholesterol to increase or to accumulate in the system. So that is why what is also recommended for our women is recommended. But we don't have olives. The olives are not very common in this part of the country. And that is why olive oil is so important, so expensive. Now, the bubble, I'm about to blast the bubble, so listen carefully. Now, in place of these oils, it is advisable that we recommend our natural oils, which we have here, that are very, 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 very nutritious and very important for pregnancy. And I'll tell you in the jiffy what they are. We are talking about coconut oil, and I'm talking about virgin coconut oil, not the way we sometimes process it. And I'm talking about palm kernel oil. It's not a very common product, but they contain very important fatty acids, short and medium chain fatty acids that have a lot of medicinal properties, a lot of properties in terms of metabolic properties that enhance energy provision and so on in pregnancy. In pregnancy, coconut oil, palm kernel oil, and then palm oil. The way we process palm oil also allows hydrogenation to occur, and therefore we will end up getting solid palm oil. Palm oil is not supposed to be solid, it's not supposed to be hardened, but unfortunately we process it and subject it to heat, and so by the end of the day you see palm oil is more or less solid fat. Palm oil, so all the tropical oils are supposed to be liquid. They are supposed to be liquid. They are oils, they are not fats. And even though people tout them, they say they are saturated. In actual fact, the saturation that we have there are very beneficial, not just for pregnant women, for everybody. Because the saturated fats that we have are short and medium chain fatty acids. And we need to understand that short and medium chain fatty acids are not the culprits when it comes to cholesterol, increased cholesterol levels, and so they are not. They rather help in buffering the system, the immune system. They help in providing energy for specific organs and structures within the body. And they also help in being antibacterial, antimicrobial in general. They have those properties. You can read about them. Myristic acid, salicylic acid, and so on. They are very, very important. We need to have a rethink about these oils and stop what people are polluting our minds with, saying that we don't need saturated oil. These are saturated. Look, they wanted to sell their oils to us, so they will debunk our oils. They will tell you your oil is not good, it's saturated, and then they will come and sell you soya oil, sunflower oil. These are not natural. They are not natural oils, and these are polyunsaturated fats that are converted to saturated fat through hydrogenation and provide a lot of trans fatty acids. And that is where the problem is. So we need to be careful and cautious about it. So that is about the fatty acids. Now, zinc. It has taken a long while for us to come to this zinc thing. But people did not know that zinc is a very precious mineral, very, very precious in pregnancy and in child development. Zinc, critical. Now people are giving zinc when the child is having diarrhea, but zinc is necessary for pregnancy because it's a growth factor. It's very important for growth, linear growth. Zinc promotes linear growth. For most of the stunting that we are seeing in our children, because they lack zinc, and that is because we're not providing them with nutrients or food that contains zinc. Whole grains, look at us giving them teasers we prepare from maize that have been the dross, that remove everything from the maize. Can you imagine where is the zinc in children? So now we have to give them in tablets, and that's what we like, tablets. Why should we, it's just pathetic. Tablets is what we are always looking for. But if we are giving them diets that will give them the necessary to meet their recommended daily allowances, we will be doing them a lot of good, because it's very important. Cell division, hormone metabolism, and immune competence. Zinc is very necessary for all that. Okay, it has a devastating effect on pregnancy outcomes, including growth retardation, teratogenic effects, and fetal death. Teratogenic effects means it's able to alter the gene environment. It will change the gene environment. So you have different kinds of proteins being produced and alterations in the structures. Teratogenicity. That is what lack of zinc can produce. So all the things you are seeing that occurs in children when they are born with all kinds of defects and so on, sometimes they are due to zinc deficiency. Some nutrients in excess can also be teratogenic, but zinc in particular, when it is not available, it's very dangerous. We need to be careful about that. And our children are born with all kinds of problems because they lack zinc. Dietary sources are, we have liver, we have meat, we have oysters, we have crab. Okay, these are just a few. And you can see oysters and crabs are usually freshwater and marine, foods. But meat, and here I'm talking lean meat, please, not just fatty meat, lean meat. Then liver. Now, too much of liver too is not good. So once a while, some small amount of liver for the house. Pregnant women are not supposed to be indulging in intake. Prevent too much. It's always good to restrict them from intake, because liver also, apart from the fact that it will provide zinc, also provides high levels of vitamin A, which is also teratogenic for pregnant women. So zinc, liver in particular, is not advisable. But other meats, let the women have meat, fish, oysters, seafoods, crabs, if that is what they want. There are other foods, but these are the main ones that we can talk about. Then, apart from all these nutrients, we have diet-related concerns. When a woman is pregnant, they are diet-related, even though they are not diets. They are related to diet. And that's why I was giving you a gist from the beginning. We are talking about the nutritional issues. So you can't just provide the foods and diets and so on and leave out these other issues, because they are very important. Nausea and vomiting is very common. And it's very common in women. It begins usually during the first 6 weeks after, the last menstrual period. That is after pregnancy. After the woman has the first 6 weeks, become nauseous and some vomit. A lot of people vomit, and some vomit, seriously. They call it what they call hyperemesis, and it disappears later after 6 weeks or 8 weeks. But some they persist. In some it persists. Now people have tried to ascribe this condition to so many things, but not nutrition. They have not looked at the nutritional angle of it. Hormones that increase in early pregnancy have been implicated, e.g. human chorionic gonadotropins have been implicated. Now, in fact, a lot of the time it is just allowing time to pass. That is the cure. But there are implications. There's implications that certain nutrients are involved. Okay, having nausea and vomiting can be, brought about by certain specific nutrients. And sometimes that is why you need to be very cautious. There's still work going on to show which particular nutrients are very critical and can help prevent nausea and vomiting in a lot of women. But it's important that during that phase, the women are exposed to a high level of the B vitamins, not in tablets, but in foods. So you encourage certain foods. And the way to go about it is to encourage them to eat small, frequent meals instead of, whatever they are enjoying. Then they should have a large amount of it. They should eat small, frequent meals. Avoid highly seasoned or strong flavored foods that's pungent or something that will hit them, in terms of its smell. They should avoid it. They know certain things that they will have to avoid. But you see, this is the dicey state of it, because some women, when they are pregnant, they also have a certain craving for some foods that may be pungent or maybe strong smelling. So it's very important to have the limits, or to know the limits and know what to prevent them from having. And some also suggest that women should have more of drier foods that are dry, more of solids, not liquid, or foods that are semi-liquid. So it's very important to have drier foods. Those ones, when you are vomiting, you are most likely to retain some of the food once it has entered your gastrointestinal tract. But all said and done, it is one person different from one person to the other. This is the period that a lot of women eat the clay, white clay, foreign casa. And I think the last time I was talking about this, I mentioned that foreign casa intake is a sign of anemia, iron deficiency anemia. Foreign casa. When you see a woman taking clay or pica, let me say pica in general, clay and other non-nutritious foods, the woman is very likely to have iron deficiency anemia. You have to be cautious about that. So you don't encourage them to take those things because they are vomiting. You rather encourage them to take food in small quantities, very small quantities, and more frequently. They take it, they relax, the nausea subsides a bit, they take small, and so on. And then by the time you realize they have eaten enough, separate consumption of fluids and solid meals. In other words, when they are eating solids, don't give them fluids. And when you are giving them some fluids, don't immediately come and give them solids. They should be separated. They should take a longer period between fluids and solids so that it doesn't induce the nausea or the vomiting. And so these are things that you need to practice. And like I said, it is not every woman who shows these signs. Even the vomiting is not every woman. Some women may have nausea, but will not vomit. Some too, you don't see the nausea come immediately, no, you see, they are vomiting. So you have to be very cautious about that. So that is one of the things we need. Then we have, okay. Wow, I think that's the end. Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I think the slides has ended.
Hi.
Sorry, can you see the slides?
No, please.
Okay, that means it went off. Sorry, I thought the slides were still showing. All right, okay, maybe I can continue without the slide. Can I continue without the slides so that you just listen? Because if I want to go back and show the slides, I don't know why it's doing that. The presentations. Okay, let me just quickly run through some of the concerns. Okay, diet-related concerns. I've talked about nausea and vomiting. We also look at heartburn. A lot of pregnant women tend to have heartburn. Heartburn means there's a burning sensation in the lower esophagus caused by the reflux of food and acid from the stomach. Reflux of food and acid, in other words, acid is being regurgitated from the stomach into the esophagus. It happens a lot in obese people, people who are fat or with big bellies, stomachs. There's pressure on the stomach, and those things will happen. And for a fetus which is developing, obviously pressure on the stomach is built up. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of pregnant women begin to experience acid in the esophagus, burning sensation in the lower esophagus. Some of them too have hormonally mediated changes that result in the relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter. The lower esophageal sphincter is the sphincter that separates the esophagus and the stomach. And there's hormones that are released, or human chorionic gonadotropins and other hormones will relax this sphincter. So it's easy for food to come up, acid to come up into the esophagus. And these are the major reasons why some experience that. And in that situation also, they should eat small, and more frequent meals, avoid highly seasoned foods, avoid lying down soon after meals, occasional use of antacids if prescribed by the doctor, by the physician. So these are the sort of precautions to take when the woman has heartburn. It's very important because some women will eat and they just go and lie there, and then they will have this problem. It's very important for them to know that. Then the next one is constipation. A lot of pregnant women come with constipation. Pregnancy comes with constipation. It's common during the last trimester. And it's due to an increased secretion of progesterone. Progesterone is secreted in large amounts, and smooth muscles of the gastrointestinal are relaxed. And when they are relaxed, the movement in the intestines is reduced. They reduce movement, and which slows down the passage of unabsorbed food residue through the large intestine. And then this results in what? Increased absorption of water also. So the slow movement, increased absorption of water, and the stasis of the feces that is formed within the GIT. So you have constipation, and this is hormonally induced. So most women, the third trimester, will have constipation. This is not the time to go and use all sorts of unorthodox means, bentuaring and all that people do. They should be very careful. You can give some mild, you can take in some mild foods that will have laxative effect. There are foods that have laxative effect that will increase the fluid that is secreted in the GIT and cause the food now to move out of the GIT. This is where some of our coconut oil, palm kernel oil, and so on come into play. They have the tendency to improve movement, motility in the GIT. So when you have those foods in your diet, you are most likely to enhance the flow of the food or the movement of the food, and therefore to resist the constipation. Then increase physical activity and a diet low in fiber also contributes. Decrease physical activity. Decrease physical activity. Most women, when you are pregnant, in our country, when a woman is pregnant, it's like sickness. They are sick. Now, pregnancy is not a disease. So they should move. They should be allowed to move. Indulge in physical activity. They can do whatever they want, but not in excess. They can hold a bucket of water if they want. They can do, but in most circumstances, pregnant women are forbidden from doing a lot of activities because they say it's like if you are not careful, the baby will die or the baby will come and pass and all sorts of things. But it's not a disease. But if, of course, the conditions are showing signs of something that is happening with the woman and then the woman needs to rest, fine, they can advise to rest. But they should not be devoid of, physical activity. And then also, we should be encouraged to have high fiber in their diet. It's also very important. When the woman is pregnant, you are giving them a lot of highly processed carbohydrates. Instead of encouraging them to eat fiber, vegetables, and all those sort of things. We are rather eating TZ and all those things without any fiber in them. So we need to be watching out for that. Increase the fluid intake and fiber intake is very critical and very necessary to prevent constipation. Physical activity during pregnancy, I've touched on it, but what I want to say is that physical activity actually during pregnancy helps reduce backache, constipation, bloating, and swelling. So physical activity is necessary for a pregnant woman. Physical activity is not the same as exercise, please. Exercise is prescribed. Physical activity is the normal thing that a person should be doing, a normal expenditure. When they prescribe it for you, you have to do it in a regimental way, and that is not something that I will advocate for. So you have to encourage women to do, pregnant women to walk around, to do things instead of always in a car or on a motorbike or something and all that. They should learn to be, walking and so on and so forth. And it also helps to prevent or treat gestational diabetes. Physical activity may help to prevent or treat gestational diabetes. So it's important for women not to be stagnant, or should I say, not to be sitting all the time or lying all the time, not to be more sedentary in their lifestyle, so that they can improve upon certain factors or hormonal outflows and prevent them from getting gestational diabetes. Increase energy. It increases energy and improves mood and sleep. It improves posture. It promotes muscle tone. It strengthens the muscles for endurance, because this journey of pregnancy requires endurance. Otherwise, if you are not physically active, you are most likely to not to be enduring. And then during the period when you are not yet ready to, to deliver, you can give up. You can see that you are tired and you are not able to endure. And if you are not careful, you have to be. And that is what happens. And most women are now taking in for cesarean section because they have reached the point they cannot do anything. I ask them to push, they are tired. So you need to encourage some physical activity. It's all to do with nutrition, even though you may not see the diet aspect of it. More, vaginal deliveries. If you indulge in physical activity, you are most likely to have vaginal delivery with lower surgical intervention, CS. If you engage in physical activity, you are more likely to have spontaneous vaginal delivery. And then less, we know of the Kegel exercise, we call it Kegel, where a woman they lie down, squeeze their buttocks or whatever it is, their pelvic region, they squeeze it several times, hold it, and then release, relax it. So this is physical activity that they are exerting, and they have to be shown how to walk around and all sort of things without necessarily always seated and lying down. And all this enhances the outcomes, the proper outcomes of the expected outcome of pregnancy. Acceptable activities include walking, dancing, biking, and swimming if the pregnant woman can. Now, consequences of maternal malnutrition. If the woman is not well nourished, we know all that this is for maternal health, increased risk of maternal complications and death if there's malnourishment, poor nutrition in the mother. That's why we have high maternal mortalities, because of all these things we are not doing properly. Increased infection, anemia, lethargy and weakness, low productivity, all those things are some of the reasons why when our mothers are malnourished, we reap all these things in our mothers, in the pregnant women. Death is common. A woman should not die from death. If the chances of a woman dying from death should be very slim. But here, it's a 50-50 chance. If a woman is going to deliver, it's 50-50. In most houses, they don't know whether the woman will come or will not come. It shouldn't be so. If the woman goes through all these things we are talking about, we are very careful and we give the necessary advice and care. A woman should be having a higher chance of surviving or going through this, and not a 50-50 chance where they will come and they will die, or die, the mother will die, blood. You go to deliver, they say you should bring blood. Get somebody to come and deliver and give you blood. Oh, why should we get that level? So we need to ensure that our women are very healthy and so on and so forth. I think I can end here, right? There are still more, but let me end here. Thank you very much for listening. If there are any questions, we can talk about.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. I think it has been a very insightful session. You've really brought to bear some of the key issues that needs to be looked at or paid attention to when it comes to the dietary requirements of pregnant women. Yeah, it is not a secret that intrauterine growth retardation are mainly occasioned by undernutrition and lack of certain nutrients that the mother in the part of the mother, and it also has its own consequent implications on the fetus after it is born. And if care is not taken within the first 1,000 days of life, it also has a generational impact. We are much grateful for this presentation. Please, members, the floor is open. If you have any question, please show by hand so that we take the questions and then Prof will address them before we sign off. Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Hi. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So if you have any question for Prof, please kindly raise your hand and then I will mention your name and you unmute yourself. Do I take it that it is well understood and the content was comprehensive enough? For that matter, no question. I must inform you that Prof is very passionate about nutrition, especially when it comes to maternal and child health. So when you have any question, please feel free to ask Prof, and Prof will give you in-depth information that you probably may have not come across. He is very passionate about this.
The GA, yeah, budget for them at 900 or at a higher fee.
So I have also included in the chat box the Google form for attendance. Please kindly fill out the attendance form so that it will be captured for the purpose of the certificate.
After the restructuring came in based on we prioritize.
Prof.
Yes.
I can see that your students and your team have really understood the content of the message that you have delivered. As usual, very impactful,
That's
very
brilliant.
insightful.
That's brilliant. I have very brilliant students, I tell you.
Very insightful, and we are much grateful for this time that you have spent with us. And I believe strongly that when we go back to our workplaces and our homes, we will be doing something different other than the usual stuff that we used to do. We will look at how to harness iron from the foods that we have, how to activate the non-iron component of the ions from the foods, be it using vitamin C to activate them and other ones. We are going to implement them. So I think I'm not getting any question. So on behalf of the Southern Zone GAND, as a chief servant, I will wish to thank you very much for the time you have spent with us and impacting this knowledge to us. We are much grateful, and it is our prayer that anytime the Southern Zone calls on you, you will give us this time that you have spent with us and then come to our call. We are much grateful
No
for
problem. No problem. I'm always available.
All right. So thank you very much. All right. So members, we will end the session here whilst we prepare to for other CPDs in addition. But please make sure that you complete the Google form before you exit. All right. Wow, Prof, the messages are keeping on, they are just coming. The messages are just coming. The presentation was very clear. Thank you, Prof. Wow, that's great. We are much grateful. We sincerely appreciate it. So we call it a quick. Please complete the Google form before you exit. Please. Thank you. So I've reposted the form again. Those of you please see it. I'm just repasting the form over and over. So check the chat message or you see the form. So those of you who have not completed, the form is still active. I've pasted it several times. It's available for all of you. Ebenezer, Elizabeth, please unmute yourself and speak. Elizabeth, your hand is up. But my Elizabeth. Okay, so I'm still repeating the forms out there. Please try and complete the forms. All right. So good night to you all.